Good afternoon and happy Saturday, keepers of the cash. Gary B, the casual comic guy here with Savage Saturday Comic Review number 38. And today, a special issue, a Bronze Age issue, an issue that predates Conan the Barbarian number 1. And why is that important on a Savage Saturday? Because without this story, we may not have had Conan as we had him. All right, and I am talking about Chamber of Darkness number 4. And yes, you're saying, Gary, that's a horror title. Maybe. Inside, there's a few stories. One of them is one featuring a character called Starr the Slayer. And Starr the Slayer is important. It was a one-off created by Roy Thomas to test the artistic abilities of one Barry Windsor Smith, who at the time only went by the name Barry Smith. So he wanted to see if he was ready to take on the Conan the Barbarian title, because at Marvel, Stan Lee requested him to get a cheap artist. They couldn't afford to put Big John Buscema or Gil Kane on the book, because at the time they were too pricey for a book that they didn't know was going to last or not last and what have you. And I'll post a little blurb. It was on 2 different pages in Barbarian Life 3 by Roy Thomas, and you'll see here Roy Thomas's own words about the situation. But without further ado, we'll get into this review. This is probably going to be a little bit shorter than the other ones because we're only talking about, I think, a 7-page story. But the story takes place, of course, in an old barbaric age, and it has our hero, Starr the Slayer, who looks very much like Conan, right? And I know I don't need to show you this because I'm showing you the pictures on the side, but still, it's fun to do while you're talking. And it just starts out, he's fighting this wizard, and he is the ruler of Zardak. He's obviously still young, so he's a young ruler. And Roy Thomas script, Barry Smith art. Like I said, this is before he went by Barry Windsor Smith. So really young in his career, was still in London. And just this story proved his mettle to be the artist for Conan the Barbarian. And it was a great 2 years, even though Gil Kane did a couple fill-in spots. Still a spectacular run. And he set the stage for what Conan would be. But getting beside myself. So this story is called The Sword and the Sorcerers. So it begins in this age-old city in a barbaric land. And this Conan Prototype Starr is fighting this beast who has been summoned by this wizard Troll. Alright? And Troll is like the cooling gath of the time. Or the Tathemon. And he has been overthrown by Starr the Slayer, and he wants his kingdom back. He wants to rule with an absolute hand, and he is not going to accept anything less than the death of Starr. And Starr looks like he's getting beat pretty bad. He has a special sword that was made for him, and it deflects a spell that's cast, and it frees him from the clutches of this beast that was brought out by magically by Troll. And it just leaves him and Troll together. And Troll casts a spell to kill him. But in one last desperate attempt, Starr the Slayer throws his sword and spears Troll. But not without consequence. Part of the spell hits him. And then we're drawn to the modern times of the 70s back then, right? 1970. I believe this came out in April or March of 1970, a few months before Conan 1. And we're in this apartment with an author. And you find out that this was all the author's dream, or so he thinks. He calls up, he doesn't want to write it. The dreams seem pretty final. He thinks he's going to leave sword and sorcery behind and go on to write other things. But this right now is his cash cow. But he thinks he's dreaming all these stories. And he's happy to be done with it. He's considering the story that he just dreamed, the swan song, for him writing Starr the Slayer. So he's walking and he's contemplating what's left for him in the future. He's outside when all of a sudden he's called a murderer. And you see the Conan Prototype Starr sitting there accusing him. Somehow the spell that was cast brought him to the modern ages to confront the guy who's been writing his stories. And so it's kind of a little meta level there, and it's a lot of fun. And Starr, I keep wanting to say Conan, that's why I keep hesitating. Starr is there to kill him. He considers this guy a greater threat than Troll ever was, because this guy has the power to end him with but the brush of a pen stroke, right? And he calls him a liar, and he's completely confounded by the tall buildings, all the lights. He doesn't care about the pages. The author's pleading with him, "You can't kill me, not in cold blood. You know, I made you a hero." And Starr's response is, "Well, who would blame me if this is the only way I can protect my life? You're going to end it." And then there's another flash, and we see our barbarian laying on the ground where he was struck down by Troll, and he's being seen to by his minstrel, Redondo Prototype, right? Or Ronaldo. They use a bunch of different names in the Conan series. Reviving him and saying, "You struck Troll dead with your last sword throw. You were just dreaming." But he knows, Starr knows, that he wasn't dreaming, that it really was in a place of metal and glass, and everything was gleaming and bright and shiny. But he promises to tell the minstrel of it one day, but he's on his way back to his kingdom where he can rule as the rightful king, and that's where the story ends. So a cool little story, a cool little 6, 7, 8 page precursor to Conan the Barbarian #1. And if you've been looking over here, I include the whole story in case you guys want to pause it and read it. I don't know how easy of a book this is to find in the wild. I know it's hard to find in really good shape. Luckily, I have a reader's copy, and I have one that's in really good shape. But a great story, kind of lets you know where Conan started. And you can see the importance of that story in the setup of Conan the Barbarian, because they copied the look almost exactly. And we all know how great Barry Windsor Smith was. So call it serendipity, call it whatever you want. The fates had it aligned, so it was, so it happened, and we're all better for it. And now we've had over 50 years of Conan the Barbarian, and it's all good gravy. Until next time, guys, keep it casual.